Music has always been an extremely powerful tool to drive change. Music can drive more social, influential, economic, emotional, like it can drive more change than anybody and any resources want to put into it, because you're bringing so many people together and you're spreading such a message. You can bring millions of people together under one understanding, or to listen to something, or at a show, thousands of people. That's a lot of power you can bring into one place. All those people at that show came together under one understanding or mindset to accomplish something, as opposed to just listening to the music, right? But to accomplish something. My name is Caid Jones. I'm a 21-year-old artist here out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. I have been involved in the community pretty heavily for the last 2 years, working with different organizations here in the city, nonprofits such as West Central Women's Resource Center. Graffiti art programming has been a great support, as well as the community that I've been a part of. I have been doing music for the last 7 years. I really found a lot of joy through music and doing community work when I was in early high school years. I found a local organization called Studio 393. They do youth programming related to producing, to business, and it's been very good to be involved with them because I've started learning workshops from them. I started learning different things as being a part of that community as a youth.
They saw people in need, and so Saturday, a group of Winnipeg youth decided to step up and do something about it. Take a look at all of these bags. Inside each one is a care package filled with items for some of Winnipeg's less fortunate. It's the end result of a series of steps. First, the group raised about $3,000 in about a week. Then they went out shopping and bought enough to make more than 300 care packages.
It really connects us all in so many different ways. I've always understood that, always wanted to use music to connect people, to bring us together at shows, find ways to give back, find ways to have other people not just connect with me in the music, but connect with each other, because you're creating community. You're bringing in people that relate to a story, and so one person relates to my story and so does another person. Why don't you two relate to each other as well, right? And so you're bringing people together in so many different ways. And one reason that we had named our brand Pay Attention was because we wanted to drive a lot of this change within the world that we want to see, and we want to bring forth a lot of the things that we feel aren't valued properly or aren't brought into light properly. So we want to be able to drive change in a way that we know we can. For so many youth and so many people to bring forth their expression and their beauty, and not just music, but art, right? Dance, creativity, camera work, all sorts of things. This creativity and this art will really drive such a social change in the future that I'm just totally on the wave. I'm with it. And that's why I do music. That's why we do Pay Attention. I've always been a very avid music listener. I love music and I love the expression of multiple genres. I started creating my own music in early high school days.
I'm the microphone and speakers in a choir of saints. Yeah, the young and the restless all stay the same. Don't want no gold chains or necklace. All I want is change. Now step up, move backwards.
This English teacher was one of the first teachers at the time who had really taken his time and given me a lot of resources, as well as the patience. At the time we were doing poetry writing, and I had developed a poem. My style of poem writing at the time was in rhyme style. I realized that if I did it a little faster, it started to sound like a rhyme in my head. So that's how I started kind of developing into writing poetry and writing rhymes. Is my English teacher had encouraged that, and he actually encouraged me to go and use instrumentals over top of this. When I started developing my own sound and my own expression, my own music, obviously there was a huge aspect of having fun with it and just enjoying it and loving it. It really makes a huge impact on people. Before I had started music, I was actually listening to Eminem, right, and listening to different hip-hop. That was one of my first albums I'd gotten into, was the Eminem Show. While listening to that album, I fell in love right away, of course, fell in love. But one thing I'd realized while looking back now is at the time that had created such impact on me just as a young kid, you know, looking to find his place in the world and really, you know, struggling with inner feelings. I had a really big understanding of the connection that music can make. You know, if I'm looking at a lot of the artists that I was inspired by growing up and their concerts, like, you know, Ozzy Osbourne, Metallica, the biggest bands that are out there, and how many people they can gather under one place, one roof. There's a big responsibility behind that, and from firsthand experience that I was impacted heavily by other artists expressing their story to make me feel not so alone, to make me feel like I'm not so caught up within my own inner emotions, something to relate to. These artists really helped out showing me that there was something to relate to in the world, and so I wanted to do that to other people, but in the right way. If I'm vulnerable with my story, vulnerable about emotions or things I've been through, I know other people will connect to that. I know other people in the world feel that, because I did, right? I felt that by other artists expressing their story. Growing up, things weren't always the easiest on all sides, especially at a young age. I'm extremely grateful for the people that were around me and the loving family, the caring people that took care of me at around that age. I've had the opportunity to be able to peek into many polarizations, I guess you would say, of life. The different impacts within certain communities and how they relate to the impacts within other communities, and how these communities might not relate to each other in certain ways. I've really been able to gain a perspective kind of on how society might view somebody like this, created an impact for somebody like this, how this story might have unfolded. Coming out of middle school, I started to realize the reality sort of the situations of growing up and the situations I've been in. You know, my father being an ex-seller of crack and my mother being an ex-user who had gone to Cocaine's Anonymous and had gone to rehabilitation, right? But at the younger age, not really understanding that these things were going on around me. My family did a really good job sort of shielding me and protecting me. There were certain aspects to my identity, certain aspects to my emotions and emotional stability that I didn't have tools for to correct yet at the time. So I went through those stages of life really questioning, you know, who I was, what my identity was, or why my past may have been like this, why things might have happened the way it did. And, you know, really having lots of inner arguments with the world around me, and started to really fill up an angry worldview due to the fact that reality wasn't what I had thought it was, and that I didn't have the tools to cope with the struggles, the traumas, the things that I was witnessing at the time. I didn't have the understanding to know why, how, you know, supposedly what was going on around me. My family has always been extremely supportive of my music career. I come from a very musical background. My stepdad himself is an artist, right? And he does guitar, and my mother doesn't do music, but she's a very avid listener, different genres. My uncle as well plays in a band, so I've always been very into music. I remember I took guitar lessons back in the day, and my parents would always support it. And so as soon as I kind of started doing the hip hop thing, started doing the music thing on my own, they were always supportive from day one. I've always remembered I can go, you know, show my mom a different tune, or this is what I'm working on at the time, these are my plans, and she would be supportive. Sometimes on and off with my stepdad here and there, because he's always been more of the, you know, hard ass, but he's always been extremely supportive, you know, on top of that, you know, as far there's nothing that like he's ever put me down for, and always been there for the music. And, you know, especially my dad too. Everyone has been there for the music from day one.
Yeah, I don't understand how we don't see problems with cheating the game like the bottom of running shoes when you're robbing. Either you're gonna shoot or they gonna stop you, just what they taught you. Life is more than the things that they bought you. Brother, I watch you. Feelings are more than the costume. Too many people behind the idea, they hide behind the costumes. Watch you.
When I first started getting into music, my mom had offered a free studio space that she had heard of through her work. So she had heard of this organization called Studio 393 that was doing different work within the community. They offered youth workshops, free studio space, all sorts of things. I actually sort of shrugged her off at the moment. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like, you know, thank you, Mom, thanks for telling me about this studio. It's all good, I got my own thing, you know, no one wants to really listen to their parents, tell them what to do. And it wasn't until 1 year later that I went to summer school, and somebody there, another student who was there at the time, was an employee through Studio 393. And so they said, hey, we have this studio downtown, it's a free youth drop-in, come check it out. And right away the name rang a bell. I was like, oh, like that's the one my mom told me about, you know what I mean? Back in the day, I should have listened, I should have dived in quicker to the whole scene. So many amazing creative people within the community that were so supportive from day one. And I remember getting an actual show, a performance show, within the first 2 weeks of showing up at 393. And so that's a big shout out to all of the people that work through 393, right? And people who were there at the time. Some of my mentors, Patrick Skeen, Pip Skid, Ness Windrush, Charlie Feta was around at the time. So many people within that community were so supportive from day one, and that was a really big catapult into the Winnipeg music scene and a more broad music scene. There was a lot of people coming through there. My introduction to the music scene was really community focused. Right away I saw that was exactly where I fit in.
In a casket, I'm going bash shit with a passion, yeah. I just spit a fact, and I'm supposed to be reacting. The captain's a dragon. I put out some lyrics, will you put it as a caption? Guess that I'll be giving what you asking. Hip hop relapsing, this got the action. This hot, the wrist hot, imagine. Crisscross, seen a lot of tragic. Keep it in my baggage. We got the half shots, we not the mask.
So when I'm writing music, I always really try to take my time and sit down and be careful with the words that I'm writing, right? Like I'm always creative in writing as much as I can. It's always an emotional process for me, right? Like I'm always really focused and it's always very getting in touch with my emotions because I'm expressing the perspectives that I've been through. I try to express a lot of the emotions and thought processes that I go through as well and put them onto a page, right? And create this, this piece of art or expression, try to paint you a picture through the words. So I really wanted to create an album that had a lot of personal meaning, but as well meaning to others, right, in the representation of my identity and who I am. I chose 7 songs to put on the EP. The reason I did this is because the number 7 has a lot of significance within my culture, and I relate that to the 7 teachings. When I started learning a lot about my identity and my culture, I really understood the value behind those 7 teachings, right? Things like truth, things like humility, things like courage. And I wanted to really put those into my music. So each song, when I'm committing it, it comes from a very courageous place. It comes from a place of love. And so embodying each of these teachings into the lyrics, into the songs that I'm creating is extremely important to me. And it's been important along the whole process of creating this EP. So I wanted to get something out that other people might feel represented by as well. Other Indigenous youth out there might feel represented by. Me, myself, standing strong on my identity, knowing that by including these sort of principles into my music, that I'm really gonna make the most impact and do what I want to do what my intentions are, right? Which is to drive impact, drive inspiration to other people who wanna create music and create art.
Refresh. Yeah, we're gonna restart that.
So every single song that I have on there is bringing forth the most authentic expression that I have within myself to be able to provide to you guys that hopefully someone can relate to, and hopefully someone out there can sense, you know, the passion and have the same passion.